wanted to do a couple-minute little review for the exam tomorrow. Um, the review is posted, and it pretty much will be what I say it will be. I don't, like I've said before, I don't trick. I don't try to make really more difficult than what it is. So it includes 65 true and false multiple choice, and you have to do 2 of 3 essay questions. Okay, I said before that it's a comprehensive exam. That generally means it covers the whole course. And why that's somewhat true, the focus is really on what has not been tested since term test 2. Okay, so that would be chapter 9 on. So chapter 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Even though we did do 13, test 13 on one of the others. Okay, so the bulk of the true and false and multiple choice questions will come from chapter 9 on. There are a few from previous chapters. Okay, what I've done when I did the test originally is I've selected them. I always select my own. Okay, I really try to not select which of the following is not type of questions, because I've said before we have test banks. We select questions from test banks. I select all my own. I don't do a random test generator. I pick what I think are valid questions, and I try to make sure the question does not trick in regards to the wording of the question. And when I pick questions from the previous chapters, I kind of go with the more straightforward versions of things that have already been tested. The other thing I wanted to say here is there's only one test bank, okay? I always tell students this, like we're not making up new questions for the final exam. They still come from the same test bank. So it is possible you might get some same questions that were on a previous test, maybe on term test 1 or term test 2, because I am extracting them from the same test bank. And what I do find personally is I end up picking a lot of the same questions because they were questions I would have thought were good questions for some reason. So it might be worth your while just to do the unit test, just to quickly kind of go through them over again. It's possible there could be some of those there. So, you know, if you have limited time, just focus really on chapter 9, from 9 on to 14, okay? What I would do with the earlier chapters is just kind of skim through the chapters, look at what seems to be important, always look at terms, look at what's highlighted in the book. That's kind of what I do myself when I'm kind of like, I'll scan through the book. I'm not looking for some abstract word in like one paragraph on page 247, whatever. So I'm trying to stick to the bigger topics, or the specific things that were noted in each chapter, okay? So you only have to do 2 essay questions of 3 given. I've pretty much given you the questions, okay, in the study guide. And in the study guide, and I've even noted what chapters are on. So the first question is on safety training. That's on chapter 9. And I'm just reading this from the study guide, not from the test. It says, for this question, think about why Canadians are not receiving adequate safety training and what you can do to convince an organization to support training programs, okay? I think these are like broader type questions, like why there's no absolute right answer, no absolute wrong answer. There is lots of in between, right? So if it's something that you can relate to yourself, it's not necessarily something you're going to find in the chapter, okay, this specific page, it lists the 7 reasons for this. That's not what these type of questions are. They're a bit more thought-provoking, okay? So they may not be receiving adequate training because maybe they're seasonal workers, maybe they're young workers. There could be lots of reasons why companies, it could be money, they do not see investment into training as any type of return on investment. Some may be training because it's mandated by the government or the industry that it's in or whatever. So because I've given you the topics, you want to think about these beforehand, not necessarily just when you're ready to write the test, okay? So the second one is on emergency planning, okay? And so I specifically said for this one to read the excerpt in your book on pandemic planning on page 293 in chapter 11. So this is an excerpt, and this excerpt in that specific thing I am directing you towards talks about how years ago the pandemic that occurred in 2020 was predicted. This is going to happen, okay? So the question is, what could have better been done to prepare? Again, think about our workplaces. Again, this is occupational health and safety in our workplace. Now that does translate over to our own lives, I know, lots of times. And what could better be done? Okay, so So this speaks to chapter 11, which is about emergency planning. Okay, so that's the second question. So the third one is work wellness initiatives and programs. That's chapter 14. Okay, so just be prepared to discuss options for wellness plans in today's workplaces. Okay, so the three, again, I'm telling you, it's only two or three. So instead of like preparing for three, just take two that you feel comfortable about and prepare to answer two of those questions. I'm not saying it's two or three and all of a sudden you're going to have to do 3 of 5. You will only have to do two questions of the three, and these are the three broad topics. So like I said, why the book covers the full chapters, chapter 1 to 14, focus on chapter 9 on. Like what I generally find, whether as a teacher or as a student, I mean, some things, once we learn them earlier on, we talk about them more later. They're brought up or repeated or enforced later in the chapter. So you don't, it's not necessarily something that's brand new to you now, where maybe it was brand new to you in the first test or kind of something like that. I don't think it's overly hard. It's 2 hours. Take your time, or use the time given, I should say. Use the time given. When you're doing your essay questions, identify if you're doing 1, 2, or 3. There's a space to answer 1, there's a space to answer 2. Don't answer both in the same place. In everything you do, write in full sentence, use proper punctuation, grammar. I'm not saying, oh, well, I'm going to take marks off for that, but do it, please. In everything that you do, use proper sentence, proper punctuation. Um, do it. It's the right thing to do. And I think the more I try to enforce this, whether it's in assignments, because I know a lot of my feedback, um, even when it comes to papers, I always try to reinforce this. And I always have a small bit of weight, right, to the whole writing, because it is just so important in everything you do, and it will be even more important when you go out and work. Okay? So yeah, so that's just my brief summary of the test. I've just kind of reiterated what's actually in the final exam review. I had lots of feedback on the course in the last discussion post, and I've said to students, it is a great course. It's my favorite one to teach, and I find students enjoy it because it's something they can relate to. It's practical. It's practical in everything that you do. Everybody should do the course. I think it's one of these courses that, things stay with you later, or now all of a sudden. I used to say to students when I first became a student myself, when I went back as an adult, it's not that it's cold in my house, I just came in, I left my hat on, is all of a sudden when you learn something in school and then you hear something on the radio or something that's said in your workplace, and all of a sudden you know what it is and it's talking about, and all of a sudden it makes sense. And for anybody who've done stats, I would assume most students were stats. When I used to teach stats on the campus, you start and it doesn't make any sense, and I felt the same way, and it seems like this is something I'm never ever going to use. So I used to start, this was in class, I used to say, when you hear something about stats or something relatable, come to class and tell me. And I used to have $5 Tim cards, and everybody, it was almost every day, someone could say, oh, Linda, I heard this on the radio today, they were talking about something to use the terminology of stats. So I do find with this course, it's just so applicable in everything you do. It makes us so much aware of what our own rights are in regards to health and safety, what we can allow, what we can't allow, what the laws say in regards to occupational health and safety. Okay, anyway, good luck to everybody, and for many of you, it's probably the last course. Some of you may have me again. I'm teaching this again at Intercession. So if you have your book and you're trying to sell it, I would post it somewhere, because there will be, I had, I think, 40 something in this class, because they combine 2 groups, even though you may only see your group. I probably have 20 plus at Intercession, so might be an opportunity there to try to post your book and sell it. It'll be the same book. Okay. Anyway, reach out, email if you have any questions.